And the collective is here for your information, knowledge, and love. What we ask of you is to sit and listen, but not to the words, but to the frequencies, to the vibration of each word. We ask that you sit in the essence of the words and the vibration of each. This is where you will find the understandings. This is where you will find the healing. Allow yourself now to sit in this vibration. Allow yourself to experience this vibration. What is it that is on each and everyone's mind? What is it that brings you together? What is it that brings you together in your existence upon this planet? What is it upon your mind that brings you together? What thoughts, what understandings, what information brings you together? But is it that in which you seek? For coming together as a human, you come together for many different reasons, for many different understandings. But for your essence, your being, your core, what is it that brings you together? Is it an equal vibration? Is it an equal understanding? Or is it the world around you? These are the many questions that many of you have. There is much that is taking place around your planet. There is turmoil. There is enlightenment. For each do not live without each other. That is what this planet is for. For you have taken this existence here because of that, because of the opposites, to experience this and to navigate through it. It is to navigate through it is the most important understanding. But it is also to understand, to navigate through it collectively. Not singularly. Do not attempt this experience of this life as a single being. But it is to merge your energies with others. Whatever that question is, whatever those words are, whatever that essence is that draws you to someone else or a collective of beings, no matter how uncomfortable it might be on the surface, take one step. Take one step in that process to move forward in connecting with others. For you must understand that your existence isn't a singular existence, although many of you believe that you are living a singular experience. You are living a singular experience as it is in the human framework. But it is greater than that, and you understand this. But it is to step back from that. It is to step back from any concept that you have of this existence. Remove yourself from your humanness. Pull yourself from your place on this planet and find yourself in the mix of all energy. And you will understand that this is not a singular life to live. For there are many that have been purposefully connected. and you can observe this from a greater perspective. But you also understand that those that believe they are living a singular experience have yet to shift that vision, to shift their understanding, to take one step forward and begin a point of connection. Much has been said that you shall reach out to those that are seeking. Those that are seeking will come to find you. And yes, this is true. And this is purposeful. But it is also purposeful to understand one's placement and how you are connected in the greater understanding of all existence upon this planet, and where you stand in this, and where you live in this. So take this time. Take the time that is before you now. Take the time in the days to come to understand the greater perspective of you as a human, but also as part of a greater collective. And understand the 2 points of difference between the two. Because you must live in this humanness, but you are also living in the essence of your being. And it is to connect with others collectively, all throughout this planet. And also be there for those that are beginning their step forward to connect. If there are questions, please begin.
Thank you very much for your presence this evening. The first question concerns organ or limb transplants. We hear stories about people who receive an organ or a limb from a donor and then start to have abilities or characteristics that have come from that donor, either through the cellular level or energetically. Can you speak to that phenomenon, please?
To understand, as you call it, a phenomenon, that is looking at something that is mystical. There is nothing mystical about it. Let's take you to a place in which many of you understand the time before you incarnated into this existence. Each and every one of you have an understanding that you have a contract to live out. You have a pre-birth plan. You have some construct that you're going to live within, as well as many others. And you've made contracts and agreements with many other individuals. Those individuals may not interact with you in a human perspective, but they may have agreed to provide a piece of them for you at a particular intersection. Now move into that intersection. An individual then has an ailment, has some sort of physical ailment that requires the replacement of an organ, a physical limb, even to the point at which skin must be replenished. That must come from another being, another human? Well, because you've made this agreement, the body has already been prepared to receive that organ, the limb, or whatever it might be. But in doing so, you've prepared yourself, your physical self, to receive encoded information, something that you may not have necessarily put into your contract to be something that will be explored or opened or received through a normal course of life. But yet you have decided that at some particular point you wish to explore something that wasn't on your checklist. In doing so, you receive something from someone else, a physical piece of someone else. And in doing so, it then triggers, opens, and allows you then to experience what this individual may be experiencing. Not always the case. That individual may never know that that was inside of them. But it was necessary to have that intersection to receive those portions in order for it to activate within you. And that was part of the agreement process. So yes, you may call it a phenomenon, but in reality, it is part of an intersection. It's part of an agreement to trigger, to open, to explore whatever gift, whatever understanding may come from that.
So I assume that happens frequently then simply through the gift of blood.
That is different in that, yes, you are receiving something from someone else, but it is a bit different. For the blood itself is encoded specifically for your being, your physical being. Yes, it is similar to someone else's, and someone else's is similar to yours. But because it is changing and it is ever evolving and it is ever changing itself over time, the encoded information that a physical piece of another human has in it, it then is transferred. But within the blood, it is changing. So those information packets do not remain complete over a particular lifetime. Yes, in particular circumstances, one particular packet of information will be received, but it won't allow the full triggering that a physical piece of the human body that has been integrated for a particular period of time to do its purpose.
Awesome, thank you for that. So I'm curious about the energy of moldavite, what you can tell us about that substance, as well as the difference or similarities between that and other tektites.
This particular substance, this particular gem or stone in which you wish to choose it. This has been created upon your planet. It is created on many others as well. But here is the difference. For when an object, a meteorite, strikes your planet, well, where does that meteor begin? It has traveled a great distance. It has passed through many galaxies. It has passed through much space. Well, in that, what is being collected? It is all of the information that is being collected and that is transmitted out into the galaxies. It is passing through this. It is being collected. It is being absorbed. Energetically, it's being absorbed. And when it strikes your planet in particular, it goes through a process of change. At that point at which it impacts your planet, it then transfers all of the energetics that are accumulated. It is transferred into the exact point at which it impacts. And then from a physical standpoint, it is imparted into what you would call your tektite or your moldavite. Now, depending upon where it impacts and depending upon how your planet is at that particular point, the moldavite or the tektite might be more energetically fused than one another, each holding its own bits of information, its own decoded information. But it is dependent upon where it strikes, not how it strikes. It also depends upon where in the impact it is placed. The closer to the point of impact, the moldavite is created. The further away, the tektite is created. More of it is imparted into the moldavite, lesser so into the tektite. But equally is imparted the information that has been brought through to the impact site.
Fantastic, thank you. And so, as you've mentioned with other crystals and things that we're drawn to work with, we need to tune in and use them in the way that we're guided. But are there any specifics that you can give us about using tektites and or moldavite in healing work or working with ourselves and our energy?
Just as it has been explained. The accumulation of information that has been collected on the meteor before it impacts is then imparted. So allow yourself, yes, to connect vibrationally and allow it to take you to a specific place, multiple places, but a specific place, and allow the information from that specific place then to be used at that particular time, that particular point. For each time that it is used with yourself or another individual, it will change location dependent upon what is needed at the time that it is used and where you will be receiving that information from. You can look upon it as a very small, condensed radio. It is an extreme receiver. So it is receiving that information from wherever it passed, as it was the meteor, ready for impact.
Amazing, thank you for that. So I'd like to talk for a moment about animals. Donna, who's on Zoom with us, her cat has really been trying to get her attention through headbutts, but also biting and just sort of holding on, not painfully, but holding on as if he's trying to get her attention. Can you shed some light on what's going on in that relationship, please?
what you will find is that many, many animals, not only those that you have in your households as pets, but wild animals as well, are beginning to connect, are beginning to sense the collective's concerns, the collective's angst, their worry, their sadness. And you must understand that your animals, no matter wild or your pets, are all there to transmute all of this energy from you. So yes, if they are trying to get your attention by whatever means that might be, begin to communicate with them, sit with them, allow them to do their work. Do not ask questions, do not be worried by it, but just to sit, relax, just as you would go and receive assistance from someone else. You sit, you relax, you calm yourself, and you allow them to do the work. That's what your pets are there for. That's what the animals in the wild are there for. So allow yourself just to allow them to do their work. Allow them to be your healers, to bring you back to center, to calm you, to relieve you of any of the fears, the anguish, the sadness, the worry, and allow them to recharge you. Speak with them. They will speak to you. They understand you, and you'll begin to understand them, and allow them to do their work.
Thank you for that. And so this might be redundant, but Oliver, our cat, for the first time ever, crawled across the top of our head last night and then laid on my crown. Was there anything specific that he was working on with regard to the crown area?
Nothing in specific other than decluttering, allowing it to open a bit more, and allowing you to slumber a bit longer.
Thank you for that. And so lastly, I've seemed to notice a pattern of more animals transitioning over the past year or so. Is this an accurate observation? And if so, why?
And to your perspective, yes, there have been more that have transitioned, but not any more than normal. But you will understand it this way. As your planet and as humanity begins to shift, as things seem to grow out of control for many of you, and yet there is still calm and peace around you, particular animals understand that they must transition because the state in which they are in now, they have, in essence, come to the end of their ability. Just as you would say, the difference between new energy and old energy. They understand that there's a greater purpose yet to fulfill, so they then elect to transition themselves so then they can be brought back into another animal, another place, another time, so that they can then do their work to the fullest. Just as your humans understand transition and that there is a greater purpose beyond this life, this humanness, and it is to either come back or transition into another being to do greater work. The animals do the same. but they also have a greater sense of when they've come to the end of their abilities. They've run their energy as far as they can. And they know that if they can come back, they can be much more effective.
Very helpful information. Thank you for that. So switching over to COVID, Alex is curious why he intersected with the virus and why he has prolonged symptoms, please.
This understanding has to have a different view. For many that are afflicted by an illness, whether this is the common cold, a flu, COVID, or some other ailment, it is purposeful. But it also is an agreement that the body chose to take. But in this case, there is a greater change that is taking place. The body needed to be pulled back in order for this greater change to take place. But you ask, why so long? You must understand the mechanisms of this individual, the thought processes of this individual. The mind itself understands, I'm going through this for a purpose. I understand this, and I will do what I need to do in order to receive this purpose. But the mind also begins to question each action, each decision, and over time begins to complicate the outcome. For when you release yourself from the understanding, and you release yourself from whatever ailment it might be, yes, the body itself will do what it needs to do to bring itself back to health. But if there's an overcomplication of thought processes, it is as if you're resetting each day the start point. It is, in essence, giving the mind a chance to understand over and over again, why am I going through this? But as each day progresses, that question of why am I going through this becomes more personal than it is more spiritual, energetic, enlightening. Early on, the understanding was, I accept what I have. I will go through this process in order for the greater outcome. But as it progressed, the balance shifts and more of the mind takes over, again, resetting each day, and it becomes more of a challenge. But hold true. The change is there. It has been there. It will now enlighten you in greater detail. Your body is just catching up. So do not weigh yourself down with the thought, why did it take so long? Why was I doing this over and over again? Why did I have this ailment? wipe that from your thought. But it is now to understand. Yes, you had an intersection. You purposefully have had this intersection. But what is the greater outcome? Where do you feel the changes taking place? What is it in your physical being that has changed from where it was before to what it is now? Where are your thoughts now than where they were before? Within your meditations, where do you go now than you did before? All aspects have changed, some very slight, some extreme, but all in all, there has been a greater shift in the center, the core, the being of who you are. So allow yourself to explore. Allow yourself to be childlike and play. Do not complicate it by the thought processes. There are many other things you can complicate in your life, but this is not one of them.
Awesome, thank you. And so along those same lines, I've heard theories about why COVID specifically impacts and takes offline the smell and the taste. So what is the truth about that? And specifically with regard to Will's case with losing his smell and taste, please.
For each and every one of you, all of your senses are important. Each and every one of you, each one of the senses requires its own data stream, its own pathway, its own bandwidth. If you think of yourself as one large computer, each one of your senses is just one additional thing that is plugged into the computer, using resources of that computer. For those that have been afflicted by this virus, many of you have lost particular senses: smell, taste, sensations. You must understand, in order to reboot, in order to recalibrate, some things must be taken offline, must be unplugged. Some for an extended period of time, some for a very short amount of time, depending on how long the computer takes to reboot. Once the new software has been rebooted and the new machine is back operational, then those senses will be brought back online. But be prepared. Whatever sense was taken offline will also be upgraded, and you will have different sensations, different smells, different tastes when they are brought back online to a full capacity.
Awesome, thank you. So Elaine is curious who this group of 5 is that she keeps sensing, one of which seems to include her brother. What can you tell her about that, please?
You sense them as a group of 5. It is a group of 6. You are included in this group. This is a group, or better noted, a council of beings, present in human form, also in the energetic form. So you must understand, you are part of this council, so do not look at yourself as being removed and you are observing a group of 5. you have a full seat within this council. The purpose of the council. It is to spread a greater awareness. It is to spread a greater awareness of the progress of our evolution. To have an understanding of this, what does this mean? Our progress of our evolution. In order to understand this, you must understand yourself and you must understand those on the council. Yes, your brother, part of the council. There are those that are galactic form. There are those that are spirit form. That in itself is secondary to the understanding of the greater council. But to understand this evolution piece, to spread awareness of this evolution piece. For you have had this greater sense about yourself, and you have a greater sense of communication with others outside of your verbal communication. This is one piece of this evolution. This is a growing piece to the evolution. Within time, within a very short amount of time within your planet's history, this will become the prominent form of communication. For you have been experiencing this, you understand this. It is for you, along with the guidance of the council, to begin the process of explaining, as you would say, telepathy. Explaining and having understanding of how this is your evolutionary path. And to begin to practice this, begin to fortify this. Visionary. To have an understanding of visionary, to understand this, you must already have an understanding of what you see in front of you, and it is not what is in front of you. For this is your window shade that you peer through. You leave it closed most of the time, but you peer through the window shade every so often. But it is time to pull the shade apart and allow yourself to have the vision of what's truly in front of you. To allow yourself to see what is truly in front of you, all of its glory, not in the physical realm, but what is out in front of you. Not only in your location, but across this planet. And begin to bring forth information that is relevant to all those that are seeking from all around this planet. So being part of this council is what you have chosen. So begin to shift your understanding and look upon yourself as seated at the table as part of this council of 6. And you have equal weight across this table. And you will begin a more direct communication with each of its members. And they will begin to bring you the information you're seeking. But dedicate yourself to this understanding.
Thank you for that. Some of those members are not awake yet, though, right?
This is correct.
And will those 6 people have anything to do with the actual physical Earth evolution in terms of political structures or organization in that way?
This, to understand, is a very fluid timeline. For the timeline that you exist on now, the answer would be yes. But each and every one of your timelines, each and every one of your being's timelines is quite fluid at this point. There was a structural change. There was a restructuring of timelines a while back. This restructuring gave more flexibility, gave more creativity in each and every one of your timelines. So it is best described as each timeline is quite fluid. So as you sit here today, yes, the answer would be, but it is fluid. So at any moment, it may change into another trajectory.
I want to ask you then about that restructuring of the timelines. Was that what was represented when Will saw the spiral that sort of stopped and didn't have an end anymore?
This is what was brought to him in a vision of the miscalculation of timelines. Yes, this is where the restructuring took place. There was an understanding of how timelines were to be represented as an infinite exponent of one's physical existence. One never knowing the complete end of a timeline because of a short time experience upon your planet as a human. But in the master understanding of timelines, there was a miscalculation. There were those individuals that were being enlightened to a point at which they were achieving an end of a timeline, and then representing themselves as achieving this end of a timeline, which then cascaded into a humanness thought of, that can't be possible. This is not something that is accurate. And it became a question. You understand the cascading effect if something is known and then it is revealed that it isn't. So this is where a recalculation needed to take place, a resetting, a restructuring. It could be looked at as all timelines were collapsed and concluded at one particular point for all beings, though not sensing it at that point, that restructuring. It gave all beings creativity to create their timeline as they choose, moving forward step by step, interaction by interaction, thought by thought, creativity to move forward into a new existence.
And so thus our current timelines are even more fluid.
This is correct.
Thank you for that. And about when in our current time frame did that take place, that restructuring?
In your calendar years, the approximate year would have been the year of 2012.
Thank you for that. So I was just curious. I noticed that our small little Charleston tribe, there are quite a few military members in that. What is the purpose of that?
For those that have chosen a life to provide to their country, and whatever service that might be, whether that is a police officer, whether that is a firefighter or military, or anyone else that chooses to take up a uniform and provide a service to their country, to their community, to the people around them. This has something to do with themselves having an understanding to serve humanity. At whatever capacity that might be, but to serve humanity. So once they step from the bounds of the uniform and they step into their human existence away from the uniform, there's something that is missing. There's something that draws them again to provide service to humanity. They may take up another uniform, but there's always a question in their mind. But as they begin to explore and they begin to answer questions, they realize there's a greater community to serve. And it is not just where they exist, but it is all humanity. And this is what they begin to step into. They begin to have the revelation that there is a greater piece of themselves, greater than themselves. And they expand themselves to all humanity.
Awesome, thank you. Who was answering that question, please?
The vibrational information was provided by Michael.
Thank you very much. Does the collective have any closing remarks before we end this evening, please?
It is to find yourself in that place. It is to find yourself with the understanding that you are not living a singular life. You are part of a greater collective. And being part of a greater collective allows you to have an understanding that is greater than this world that you exist in. For the collective that you exist in does not mean just this planet. It doesn't mean all the other planets as well, but it means that you are one fractal in the greater quantum web of everything. And you are connected to everything. All time, all space, all knowledge. You're merely one fractal in that web, but that one fractal can impact so many pieces. So allow yourself just to take the time to sit and understand yourself. Understand yourself and how powerful you are and how connected you are.
Thank you. Thank you so very much for being present with us this evening.
And as always, the collective is here for your information, knowledge, love.